This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today on another historic day for the precious metals is longtime friend, contrarian investor, and one of the most successful resource investors in the space. I'm speaking with Mr. Jeff Phillips. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Gerardo. Thanks for having me.
We live in interesting times, sir. We have gold pushing 4,800, currently trading at $4,760. Silver flirted with 96 before retreating to the 94.50 level. Geopolitically, the turbulence and the volatility is as kicked up as I've seen it in my 47 years of life. What do you think about this precious metals market? Is it sustainable? Does it continue? What do you think the drivers are?
Well, I think the drivers are discussed in many, many interviews daily. Essentially, we're devaluing our currencies around the world, and people are want to have something safe. And gold and silver, to a lesser degree, have always been a hard asset in times of inflation and currency debasement that do pretty well. They've had a damn good run right here, so. I think we're in, again, if you look long term, gold's going to be higher, long term, and so is silver, because they're going to keep printing money. But in the short term, I can see gold and silver having a healthy pullback. And right now, the mining stocks have not necessarily reflected this move in gold and silver, especially the gold and silver ones. I mean, you've got copper doing well, you've got uranium doing well. But like you said, what's, outside in the resource sector, besides gold and silver, you have this new dynamic where countries around the world are fighting over the security of supply of the minerals they need. And none of us mine all these minerals ourselves in our own country. And the United States is probably the worst at this point because we've played this game of not in our backyard for the past 40 years. So you're seeing governments, lots of money, strategic. I can't even keep up, Gerardo. There's so many announcements. Didn't Australia announce an antimony thing or something?
$1.2 billion critical metals fund, what I'm calling a critical metals bank that's focused heavily on antimony, some rare earths, some gallium, and a couple of other metals. But it was very geared towards antimony security of supply there.
And I can't keep track of all the announcements the U.S. government and banks have announced on critical minerals funds. And, basically, this resource market's going to be very good over the next 10 years. There'll be, it's highly volatile. There'll be ups and downs. So, I'm not complaining. I do well. I finance companies with people and structure, and I've had some of my biggest wins in the last 5 years before this bull market took off. But I'm happy to be in a bull market. I just, you got to be aware that there could be some good pullbacks, and so I've got companies that have graduated. I tend to finance companies in the $10 million to $30 million range, very, very high risk, but good people, good structure, because those are requirements, and that narrows your field down drastically in this space. And then I hope those companies graduate to $300 to $500 million market cap companies, and another level of investors financing those companies. And some of those examples of companies that I still own are like Bravo Mining. You just saw them raise over $100 million. That's $4.50 a share. As a shareholder, I'm happy, but I'm even more happy because, when I financed that company pre-IPO at 50 cents and less, and then did the IPO at $1.35, it's a successful company that's proving that the asset and the people, deserve to be financed at much higher prices. You can look at a Aldebaran or a Regulus or a Patriot Battery Metals. These are all companies I was lucky enough to be involved in it. Under 15 to $40 million market caps that all have, big market caps now. So I'm really on the front end of the curve, and that was in those things happened really. I mean, they've gotten better now, but they were substantially up in a not a bull market. Don't get me wrong. I like the bull market, but so, I liken it to a farmer. I've got, plants in the field. I usually have a dozen, and some of those are bigger, but a lot of those are, just starting off, and I hope that they grow into bigger plants in the field. So, I'm on the front end. So I'm looking at, it's getting tougher in this market to find quality people, quality structure. and with a real asset that, in a small market cap, which takes some of the risk off the table for me.
Let me play devil's advocate for a quick second. I can make an argument that while it's getting harder to find earlier stage deals with quality people and quality assets, it's getting easier for those companies that don't have that to find capital. So if I am one of these typical promoters that is just looking to add the name gold or the word silver or whatever, you pick your commodity, they're all surging right now. But I'm doing that just to get, whatever, a double or a triple or however people play it in the short term. What is the argument for someone to still want Jeff Phillips backing them, not just with the capital, but obviously with the large network of everything that you bring, right? Geologists, capital markets experience, friendly introductions, you name it. You play it as more of a long-term game. Why should people still pick up the phone when Jeff Phillips calls?
Well, most people that I'm not going to call because I don't like their share structure and I don't like the people. But you are correct. They're able to raise money now, but I'm not competing with that. So the handful of companies that I'm looking at, and it's a small number, and things change and new things are coming up. But I build the case with someone. If again in this market, in a strong wind, all the turkeys can fly. Well, they're all starting to fly now. So I'm not interested in that. I'm still looking for the real deal. Or the real, that the money's going into doing something real and the assets are real assets that deserves to have the money go into it, which again excludes a lot of these exploration companies. So, but the argument for why a company, I just had this conversation with a company this morning. I've offered a financing to lead a financing in a company, and they have offers at probably 20% higher than what I've offered. But that's just money. Like you said, these people know me and they know that if I'm involved in it, it's not going to be 4 months and a day hold type stuff, collecting warrants, that I'm going to be involved in this, helping them build out the company with success if they meet their milestones and be there when they need to raise 10 million or 5 million and then 10 million. And then hopefully, down the road, 50 million. And then it goes on to another level, like the Bravo we mentioned before, raising $120 million at, $4.40 a share or whatever they're doing now. Again, that's what I'm looking to do. So you're looking, these companies need to realize, and especially the good companies, that when they're all being offered money, they're just renting the money. You want to make sure whoever's financing you, especially, and I only look at companies that management owns at least 25%, management and board owns 25% of the company, which means it's fully reporting and I can see at least that many shares. So again, these guys are locked in. They got to make a company success. So they're not here just for the bull market like 90% of these companies to flip options in stock and bury it in their cousins and accounts. These excuse me, these guys are reporting, so they have to make the company work. I want to be in that deal. You can make money faster by doing some of this crap, but I want to be in a real deal, working with real people, and I like being part of a team.
Excellent.
And your shareholders, if you're a company, Gerardo, your shareholders are part of your team, and you need to look at it that way. Don't just take money from anybody. If you're a good company, make sure you're taking the best money. That's a whole nother interview, though.
Yeah,
what these guys should be doing.
No, couldn't agree more. I can't let you go without getting a few names that maybe you're helping or involved with, or just like as a shareholder, that check that structure box that you so often reference, and check the people box, and in a perfect world, maybe even also check the asset box, right?
Yeah. Do you want to go on with some, first off, I consult for a lot of these companies. I'm a large shareholder, so obviously I'm biased, and this isn't investment advice. It's just what I'm doing with my money and the companies I'm willing to work with. And again, it doesn't guarantee success whatsoever, but it does mean that most of the companies I talk about are doing the right things and have the assets that can be moved forward. So do you want to go the front end, the more exploration side, higher risk, or do you want to go still high risk, but the $300 to $500 million market cap company?
No, you've known me long enough to know that the sandbox that I almost exclusively dabble in is the highest risk exploration companies that have a good team, have a good structure, and maybe are even still looking for assets, but we know the structure and the team have a track record of integrity and getting the job done. That's where I really get excited, and especially in a bull market like this one.
Yeah, well, let's go with I'll try to think of three companies here. Well, one company that I really enjoy talking to, and my large shareholder, is Dora Gold. Dora is I'm trying to think what the market cap is right now. It's probably right around 30 million or so Canadian, which is a lot less in US dollars. But, Dora is a company that just raised $7 million. I believe it was at 25 cents a share. The stock's at about 34 or 5 cents a share. They have several projects. They'll be drilling a project here shortly in February in Argentina, the Cerro Bio project, which is a joint venture from Latin Metals, a really good prospect generator. So that'll be seeing drilling. I really like that property. It is exploration. There's been a lot of work done on it. They've got some really good targets, but the main reason I like Dora is their project in Peru. They have several, but they have the project right next door to Highlander Silver's project that they've been having fantastic drill results on. Highlander Silver is run by a fairly successful entrepreneur in the mining space, Richard Wart. The company has, I don't know, $400 or $500 million market cap. I don't know, but hundreds of millions of dollar market cap. And their drill holes that they're hitting are right on the property line with Dora Gold. And, we see the structures coming over onto Dora's property. Dora will hopefully be drilling later this year on that property. But again, I like Dora Gold. I think it offers a lot of potential upside, especially in a precious metals bull market. What's another company? I spoke with Matt at Greenlight Metals. I'm a shareholder and consultant for Greenlight Metals. Greenlight Metals, is a company that was private for a long time, too long. And they finally went public here recently at 30 cents. The stock dropped because they didn't have a lot of good shareholders. They were tired shareholders, but I like the deal. It's in Wisconsin. They had picked up a bunch of properties that Rio Tinto had done some work on back, before Wisconsin changed the mining law. It became unfriendly, but about 5 years ago, they changed it back and it's very friendly to mining. And then obviously you have the federal government now that is extremely friendly to mining, which is the first time in my career I've seen this.
Yeah.
So, what's interesting there with Greenlight is they just raised, I think, 12 million at 35 cents with no warrant. That's about where the stock trades. That money is going to get deployed in a big drill program here, showing, it should start sometime in February, if not March. They're waiting for a permit, but I don't see any problems with that, smaller part of it. So Greenlight's going to be deploying that money. They've already had fantastic drill results. They've got it's a copper asset with some other metals, including some critical metals. I wouldn't be surprised to see that get a Fast 41 exploration mark from the U.S. government. Copper's critical. The other minerals they have are critical, and they're going to be drilling again. So I think the company has about a 35 million Canadian market cap. But, with a lot of drilling coming up and some successful drilling in their small program that they started with, I think Greenlight Metals is a very interesting company. And then what's another small company? T2 Metals, which is run by Mark Saxon, who I've known for 15 years. And originally I financed a company that he was involved with called Tasman Metals back in the first rare earth boom in 2009 at 10 cents. The stock ended up being a $7 or $8 stock and making a big rare earth discovery that's still being advanced in Europe as we speak. Mark Saxon runs T2 Metals. They've got a fantastic project in Canada that, I hope to see them joint venture out. They've also moved to some exploration properties. They just announced some sampling results on their newest property. I expect them to add some other properties in that mining district. Those properties the property that they acquired came from Sean Ryan, who's a pretty well-known guy in the mining space and has built properties to companies that have become discoveries. So T2 Metals, I think it's at about 30 cents. So the market cap's probably, I don't know, 15, 16, $18 million Canadian but again, Mark Saxon's a straight shooter in this market. I suspect the stock will trade higher in the future.
No, look, always a pleasure to have you on, Jeff. I know you will be at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, as will I. Hopefully we get to see some of our audience and subscribers alike. Anything to add to this market on how to play it, Jeff, before you leave?
I think, in any market, don't risk more, don't get in a liquidity trap where you're risking more. And if things don't go exactly your narrative on your time frame, you don't want to have to sell things to cover costs. So especially in the mining space, finance people and share structure, really look for people who have, I don't like the word skin in the game, but I guess I'll use it, have a significant shareholding that's reporting, and that they're locked in to have to build this asset out. Otherwise they're not going to make money. So I'd be very careful at what, and I'd be very careful of third-party advice, including my own, because what I'm doing with my portfolio is different in my net worth than what someone else might do. Again, the mining space is very high risk, but I think that, because of the environment we're in right now, you're going to see more, you're going to hear more and more, and people that don't know anything about mining are going to be getting pitched, and they're going to see gold and silver and copper at these prices, and they're going to buy a bunch of turkeys. And, when the wind stops blowing, the turkeys can't fly. So, if the wind stops blowing, at least I know the companies I'm involved with will stay in the game and be around, because they're real deals. They're not turkeys.
No, listen, well said as always. Appreciate the time and the advice. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, Gerardo.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.